Maria Thompson lived in a tiny, dimly lit apartment on the outskirts of town. The walls were thin, and she could hear every noise from her neighbors, the muffled arguments, the laughter of children playing, and sometimes even music blasting, late at night. But Maria didn't mind the chaos around her. It kept her company during the long hours when she felt utterly alone. She was a single mother raising 2 kids, Liam, her 9-year-old son with asthma, and Sophie, her 6-year-old daughter who loved drawing rainbows on scraps of paper they found lying around. Life hadn't been kind to Maria. Her husband left them years ago without so much as a goodbye, leaving her to pick up the pieces. Since then, she'd worked tirelessly to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. By day, she served coffee and plates of greasy fries at a diner downtown, where customers rarely tipped more than $1 or $2. At night, after tucking Liam and Sophie into bed, she cleaned offices for extra cash. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills, or at least part of them. That evening, Maria came home exhausted. Her feet ached from standing all day, and her back felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. She dropped her bag on the kitchen counter and slumped onto the old couch that smelled faintly of mildew. For a moment, she just sat there, staring blankly at the peeling wallpaper across the room. Her phone buzzed loudly on the table beside her, snapping her out of her daze. It was a reminder notification. Rent due tomorrow. Her heart sank. Rent? Already? She rubbed her temples, trying to think of how she could possibly scrape together enough money by tomorrow morning. Between Liam's medication refills, Sophie's school supplies, and groceries, there was barely anything left. Maria sighed heavily and picked up her phone again, scrolling through her contacts until she found the name Sis. Her younger sister, Rachel, had always been her go-to person whenever things got tough. Though Rachel wasn't exactly rolling in cash herself, she'd managed to help out here and there when Maria needed it most. With trembling fingers, Maria typed out a message. "Hey sis, I don't know what else to do. I can't afford rent this month. Please, if you could lend me some money, I promise I'll pay it back. I'm so sorry to ask, but I'm really stuck." As soon as she hit send, she closed her eyes, feeling a mix of guilt and desperation wash over her. Asking for help made her feel weak, but what choice did she have? Unbeknownst to Maria, the number saved under Sis wasn't actually her sister's anymore. A few months earlier, Rachel had changed her phone number, and Maria had forgotten to update it in her contacts. Instead, the text went to an entirely different person, a man named Alexander Hartwell. Alexander was no ordinary guy. He was the CEO of one of the largest tech companies in the country. Known for his sharp suits, calculated decisions, and billion-dollar empire, he seemed worlds apart from Maria's reality. At that very moment, Alexander was seated behind his sleek mahogany desk in a high-rise office overlooking the city skyline. He was reviewing documents for an upcoming board meeting when his phone vibrated softly against the polished surface. Glancing down, he saw a notification pop up, a text message from an unknown number. Curious, he unlocked his screen and read the words, "Hey sis, I don't know what else to do." His brow furrowed as he reread the message. Who was this? And why were they calling him Sis? Alexander leaned back in his chair, intrigued. Most people who contacted him either addressed him formally, Mr. Hartwell, or flattered him excessively. This raw plea for help stood out starkly against the usual emails and texts he received. Something about the vulnerability in those sentences caught his attention. He hesitated for a moment before replying. Normally, he wouldn't entertain messages from strangers, especially ones sent by mistake. But tonight, something compelled him to respond. Maybe it was the exhaustion creeping into his own life lately, the endless meetings, the pressure to meet quarterly targets, the loneliness that came with being at the top. Whatever it was, he tapped out a reply. Who is this? Meanwhile, Maria was pacing nervously in her living room. She hadn't heard back from Rachel yet, which only added to her anxiety. When her phone buzzed again, she practically lunged for it, hoping for good news. But instead of seeing her sister's name, the reply came from an unfamiliar contact labeled Sis. Confused, she opened the message and froze. Who was this? And why had they responded? Panic set in as Maria realized her mistake. She must have accidentally sent the text to the wrong person. Mortified, she quickly typed back, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I meant to text my sister. Please ignore that message." Then she buried her face in her hands, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. What must this stranger think of her? She sounded pathetic, desperate, and now, completely embarrassed. On the other end, Alexander chuckled softly at her apology. He appreciated her honesty, though he still couldn't shake off the curiosity gnawing at him. Why was this woman struggling so much? Was she truly as desperate as her words suggested? Against his better judgment, he decided to probe further. Typing slowly, he replied, "It's okay, no harm done, but if you're in trouble, maybe I can help." When Maria saw his response, her jaw dropped. Help? From a complete stranger? That couldn't be right. Surely this was some sort of prank or scam. People like her didn't get offers of help from strangers, not real ones anyway. Suspicious but too overwhelmed to ignore the lifeline being offered, she cautiously replied, "Thank you, but I wouldn't want to bother you. It's not your problem." Alexander smiled faintly at her reply. There was a quiet dignity in her refusal, a determination not to burden others even when she clearly needed support. It reminded him of his own early days, before wealth and success, when he'd struggled to make ends meet while building his company from scratch. Perhaps that was why he felt drawn to her story, to the unspoken strength behind her vulnerability. Little did Maria know, this accidental text would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. For now, she simply tucked her phone away, unsure of what to expect next. Exhaustion finally took over and she crawled into bed, praying for a miracle to save her family from eviction. Meanwhile, Alexander sat in his office, staring out at the glittering city lights below. His mind raced with possibilities. Could he really make a difference in someone's life tonight? And if so, where would it lead? Next morning, Maria woke up with a knot in her stomach. She had barely slept, tossing and turning as her mind replayed the events of the previous night. The accidental text to the stranger weighed heavily on her. Who was this person? What must they think of her now? And why had they offered to help? It all felt surreal, like something out of a movie she wouldn't dare believe could happen in real life. As she prepared breakfast for Liam and Sophie, she tried to push the incident to the back of her mind. Pancakes sizzled on the old stove, their sweet aroma filling the small kitchen. Sophie chattered excitedly about her upcoming art project at school, while Liam coughed softly, a reminder that his asthma medication supply was running dangerously low. Maria forced a smile, determined not to let her worries overshadow their morning routine. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something unusual was about to unfold. Meanwhile, Alexander Hartwell sat in his penthouse apartment, staring at his phone over a cup of black coffee. He hadn't been able to stop thinking about Maria's message. There was something hauntingly familiar about her desperation, something he recognized from his own past. Before becoming one of the richest men in the country, Alexander had once been just another struggling college student, working multiple jobs to pay tuition while sleeping on a friend's couch. Those memories were buried beneath years of success, but they resurfaced now, tugging at him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Curiosity got the better of him. Using his connections discreetly, Alexander began digging into Maria's background. He didn't want to invade her privacy, but he needed to understand who she was and why she seemed so desperate. Within hours, his assistant compiled a detailed report. Maria Thompson, 32 years old, single mother of two, employed part-time as a waitress and cleaner. Her son suffered from chronic asthma, requiring expensive medications, and her daughter attended public school where fees were manageable but still a strain. She had no savings, mounting debts, and no family nearby to lean on. What struck Alexander most wasn't just the financial hardship, it was Maria's resilience. Despite everything stacked against her, she hadn't given up. According to neighbors and colleagues, she was known for her kindness, always willing to lend a hand or share what little she had. At work, she was dependable, often picking up extra shifts to ensure others could take time off. This wasn't someone looking for handouts. This was someone fighting tooth and nail to provide for her children. Alexander found himself oddly inspired by her story. In his world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, people rarely showed such grit without expecting something in return. Maria's quiet determination stood out like a beacon amidst the noise of greed and ambition. He realized then that helping her wasn't just about charity. It was about recognizing potential where others might overlook it. Later that afternoon, Maria received another text from the mysterious stranger. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the notification pop up on her phone. Hesitantly, she opened the message. "Maria, I've thought about your situation. If you're comfortable sharing more, I'd like to understand how I can assist you." Her hands trembled as she read the words. Comfortable? How could she possibly explain her chaotic life to a complete stranger, especially one who lived in a completely different world? Yet there was sincerity in his tone, a genuine desire to listen rather than judge. After several minutes of internal debate, Maria decided to respond. Maybe this was her chance to finally unload some of the burdens she'd been carrying alone for so long. Over the course of the next hour, Maria poured her heart out through text messages. She told him about Liam's frequent hospital visits due to asthma attacks, the cost of inhalers adding up faster than she could earn. She mentioned Sophie's love for art, and how she dreamed of enrolling her in after-school classes, but the fees were simply out of reach. She confessed how the stress of unpaid bills kept her awake at night, and how she often skipped meals to stretch the grocery budget further. Each message she sent felt like lifting a weight off her chest, even if only slightly. For the first time in months, she wasn't bottling up her emotions or pretending everything was fine. On the other end, Alexander listened intently, absorbing every word. He asked thoughtful questions, encouraging her to elaborate on details she might have otherwise glossed over. By the end of their conversation, Maria felt both drained and strangely lighter, as though acknowledging her struggles aloud had somehow made them less suffocating. That evening, Alexander sat at his desk, staring at the transcript of their exchange. He couldn't recall the last time he'd felt so moved by someone else's story. Most of the people in his circle spoke about yachts, luxury vacations, and stock portfolios, not rent payments, medical bills, or dreams deferred. Maria's honesty reminded him of the humanity he sometimes forgot existed outside the polished walls of his corporate empire. He knew he wanted to help her, but not in the way she expected. Giving her money outright would be easy, but it wouldn't solve the root of her problems. Instead, Alexander devised a plan, one that would empower Maria rather than simply offering temporary relief. He picked up his phone and dialed his assistant, instructing them to set up a meeting with representatives from a local nonprofit organization he secretly funded. By tomorrow morning, they would arrange for Maria to receive a grant worth $50,000, disguised as an initiative to support struggling families. But Alexander didn't stop there. As he reviewed Maria's profile again, he noticed something intriguing: her problem-solving skills. Even in the midst of chaos, she managed to juggle multiple responsibilities, prioritize her children's needs, and maintain a positive outlook. These were qualities he valued deeply in his employees. A thought began forming in his mind, one that could change Maria's trajectory entirely. By the time Maria tucked Liam and Sophie into bed that night, she felt a flicker of hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in ages. The stranger's willingness to listen and perhaps even help had reignited a small flame within her. She didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she dared to imagine a future where things weren't quite so bleak. Little did she realize her accidental text had set off a chain reaction that would soon alter the course of her life forever. And Alexander? He went to bed that night with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Helping Maria wasn't just about easing her struggles. It was about reminding himself of the values he'd once held dear before wealth and power clouded his vision. Together, unknowingly, they were on the brink of transforming each other's lives in ways neither could have predicted. The days following Maria's heartfelt conversation with the stranger felt surreal. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was teetering on the edge of something monumental. though she had no idea what it might be. Each time her phone buzzed, her heart raced, half expecting another message from the mysterious man who had shown such unexpected kindness. But when nothing came for 2 days, doubt began creeping in. Had he changed his mind? Was she foolish to have trusted him, even for a moment? Meanwhile, Alexander Hartwell was hard at work behind the scenes. He hadn't forgotten about Maria, not for a second. In fact, he found himself thinking about her constantly, replaying their text exchange in his mind and marveling at her resilience. It wasn't just her situation that intrigued him, it was her spirit. Despite everything she'd been through, she still managed to radiate strength and hope. That kind of determination was rare, and Alexander knew he had to act quickly. True to his word, Alexander reached out to the nonprofit organization he supported, a small but impactful foundation dedicated to helping struggling families get back on their feet. He instructed his team to prepare an application packet tailored specifically for Maria, ensuring it would address her immediate needs while also offering long-term solutions. The grant amount was substantial, $50,000. But Alexander didn't stop there. He included provisions for financial literacy training, access to affordable healthcare resources, and even career counseling services. This wasn't just about giving her money, it was about equipping her with tools to build a better future. A week later, Maria received an email notification while taking a quick break at the diner where she worked. At first she ignored it, assuming it was yet another bill or reminder about her overdue rent. But when she finally opened the email during her lunch break, her breath caught in her throat. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you've been selected for the New Beginnings grant." Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the message. According to the email, she had been chosen as one of the recipients of a special grant designed to assist families facing financial hardship. The funds would cover her outstanding rent, medical bills, and other pressing expenses, with additional support for savings and education. There were instructions on how to accept the grant, along with details about workshops and mentorship programs available to help her manage her finances moving forward. Tears streamed down Maria's face as she read the words over and over again. For so long she had carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, convinced that no one cared about people like her. But here was proof that someone did. That help could come from the most unexpected places. She clutched her phone tightly, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. How had this happened? Who had nominated her for this grant and why? Unbeknownst to Maria, Alexander was watching from afar, waiting for the right moment to reveal himself. He knew she wouldn't accept help if she realized it came directly from him, at least not initially. So, he decided to maintain his anonymity, for now, letting her believe the grant was part of a broader initiative rather than a personal gesture. Still, he couldn't resist sending her one final text. "I heard about your good news. Congratulations, Maria. You deserve this more than anyone I know." When Maria saw the message, her heart skipped a beat. It was him, the stranger who had listened to her story and promised to help. She stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Part of her wanted to ask if he had anything to do with the grant, but fear held her back. What if she was wrong? What if accusing him of involvement ruined whatever fragile connection they had? Instead, she typed a simple reply. "Thank you for everything. I don't know how to repay you." Her fingers hovered over the send button for a moment before she pressed it, releasing a sigh of relief. Somehow those few words conveyed everything she couldn't say aloud. Alexander smiled faintly as he read her response. Repayment wasn't what he sought. What mattered most to him was seeing Maria take control of her life again. Yet he knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Grants and financial aid were only temporary fixes. True transformation required opportunity, and Alexander had an idea for that too. Over the next few weeks, Maria attended the workshops provided by the nonprofit organization. She learned budgeting techniques, explored ways to reduce her debt, and gained insight into managing her family's healthcare costs more effectively. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of stability creeping into her chaotic life. Rent was paid, Liam's medication was stocked, and Sophie's school fees were covered. The constant dread of eviction notices and collection calls faded away, replaced by cautious optimism. But Alexander wasn't done yet. As he reviewed Maria's progress reports, which he requested discreetly from the nonprofit, he noticed something remarkable. Not only had she embraced the resources offered to her, but she had also taken the initiative to improve her circumstances further. She enrolled in a free online course to learn basic accounting skills, hoping it might open doors to better-paying jobs in the future. She volunteered at a local community center, sharing her experiences with other single parents and encouraging them to seek help when needed. This was exactly the kind of drive Alexander admired. He realized then that Maria's potential extended far beyond survival. With the right opportunities, she could thrive and perhaps even excel. An idea began forming in his mind, one that excited him more than any business deal ever had. One evening, as Maria tucked Sophie into bed and checked on Liam, she received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitant but curious, she answered. A calm, familiar voice greeted her. "Maria, this is Alexander Hartwell. We've exchanged texts before, though you may not remember me." Her eyes widened in shock. Alexander Hartwell, the CEO of Hartwell Tech? The billionaire entrepreneur whose face graced magazine covers and billboards across the city? Suddenly, pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Could he be the reason behind the grant? Before she could stammer out a question, he continued. "I'd like to meet you tomorrow at my office. There's something important we need to discuss." Maria's mind raced. Why would a man like Alexander Hartwell want to meet her? Had she unknowingly offended him? Or worse, was this some sort of elaborate prank? Despite her doubts, she agreed to see him, driven by a mix of curiosity and desperation. After all, what did she have to lose? The following morning, Maria dressed, carefully, choosing her nicest blouse and ironing her slacks until they looked presentable. She left early, nerves twisting her stomach into knots. When she arrived at the towering glass building that housed Hartwell Tech, she felt impossibly small. The lobby buzzed with activity, employees rushing past her in sharp suits and polished shoes. She approached the receptionist, announcing herself nervously. Moments later, she was escorted to a private elevator that whisked her up to the top floor. As the doors opened, she stepped into a sleek, modern office suite. Alexander stood waiting for her, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. His presence was commanding, yet his smile softened the intensity of his gaze. "Maria," he said warmly, extending a hand. "Thank you for coming." They sat down in his office, surrounded by panoramic views of the city skyline. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Alexander broke the silence. "I want to be honest with you," he began. "The grant you received, it wasn't random. I arranged it because I believe in your potential. You've shown incredible strength and determination, qualities I value deeply, and I think you're capable of achieving much more than you realize." Maria blinked, stunned. You did this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Why?" "Because everyone deserves a chance to succeed," Alexander replied, simply. "And because I see something in you, a spark that reminds me of myself when I was starting out. I'd like to offer you a position at Hartwell Tech. It won't be charity. I'll provide training and mentorship to ensure you succeed. But I truly believe you can make a difference here." For a moment, Maria couldn't breathe. A job at Hartwell Tech? It sounded impossible, like a dream too good to be true. Yet, looking into Alexander's eyes, she saw sincerity. Slowly, she nodded. "I'll try," she said softly. "Thank you for believing in me." As they shook hands, both felt a glimmer of excitement for what lay ahead. For Maria, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with possibilities she had never dared to imagine. And for Alexander, it was a reminder of why he had built his empire in the first place, to create opportunities for others. Together, they were about to embark on a journey neither would forget. Maria's first day at Hartwell Tech was nothing short of overwhelming. As she stepped into the gleaming office building, dressed in her best professional attire, a modest blouse and neatly pressed slacks, She couldn't help but feel like an imposter. The lobby buzzed with energy, employees rushing to meetings or chatting animatedly over cups of coffee. Everything about the place screamed sophistication and ambition, two things Maria had rarely encountered in her daily life. Alexander greeted her personally that morning, his demeanor calm and reassuring. "Welcome to Hartwell Tech," he said with a warm smile. "I know this might feel intimidating, but trust me, you belong here." His words eased some of her anxiety, though she still wondered if she'd made a mistake accepting the offer. What did a single mother who spent her days serving tables and cleaning offices know about working at a billion-dollar company? To ease her transition, Alexander assigned her to a mentor named Elena Martinez, a senior manager known for her patience and dedication to nurturing talent. Elena took Maria under her wing immediately, guiding her through the basics of office etiquette, email communication, and even how to navigate the company's complex internal systems. "You're not expected to know everything right away," Elena assured her during their first meeting. "Just focus on learning one step at a time." Maria threw herself into the work, determined not to let anyone down. Her initial role was entry-level administrative support, handling tasks like scheduling meetings, organizing files, and assisting various departments with clerical duties. At first, it felt mundane compared to the high-stakes world of tech innovation she saw around her. But as weeks turned into months, Maria began noticing patterns in the workflow. She started anticipating needs before they arose, streamlining processes and finding creative solutions to minor inefficiencies. Her knack for problem-solving didn't go unnoticed. One afternoon, while helping the finance team prepare quarterly reports, Maria spotted inconsistencies in the data that others had overlooked. When she pointed them out, the team was impressed by her attention to detail. "You've got a sharp eye," one of the analysts remarked. "Have you ever considered working in data analysis?" The comment planted a seed in Maria's mind. Could she really grow beyond her current role? With Elena's encouragement, she enrolled in free online courses offered by the company, studying topics like spreadsheet management, data visualization, and project coordination. Slowly but surely, she began expanding her skill set, proving herself invaluable to the teams she supported. Alexander kept a close watch on Maria's progress, though he tried not to interfere too much. He wanted her growth to feel organic, not forced. Still, he couldn't resist checking in occasionally, often stopping by her desk to ask how things were going. Their conversations grew more comfortable over time, shifting from formal exchanges to genuine discussions about challenges and aspirations. One evening, after most employees had left for the day, Maria found herself working late on a presentation for the marketing department. She was struggling to format graphs correctly when Alexander appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you could use a break," he said, handing her one of the steaming mugs. They sat together, in the quiet office, talking about everything from Liam's latest asthma checkup to Sophie's art projects. For the first time, Maria realized how much she admired Alexander, not just as a CEO, but as a person who genuinely cared about making a difference. Over the next year, Maria continued to rise through the ranks. Her hard work and natural aptitude earned her promotions, first to a junior coordinator position, then to a full-fledged role in project management. Along the way, she faced moments of doubt, questioning whether she was truly qualified for these responsibilities. But each time, Alexander reminded her of her potential. "You've already proven yourself," he told her once. "Don't let fear hold you back now." As Maria flourished professionally, her personal life transformed as well. With a steady income and benefits package, she moved her family into a safer neighborhood with better schools. Liam's health improved thanks to consistent medical care, and Sophie joined an after-school art program where her creativity blossomed. For the first time in years, Maria felt like she could breathe again. But perhaps the most profound change was within Maria herself. The woman who once doubted her worth now walked with confidence, her head held high. She became a role model for other employees, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. During team meetings, she openly shared her journey, encouraging colleagues to embrace opportunities despite their fears. "If I can do it, she would say with a smile. So can you. Alexander watched all of this unfold with pride. He hadn't anticipated how deeply Maria's transformation would impact him. In helping her succeed, he rediscovered a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about profit margins or stock prices anymore. It was about creating meaningful change, one person at a time. By the third year of her tenure at Hartwell Tech, Maria had become indispensable. She led cross-departmental projects, mentored new hires, and even spearheaded initiatives aimed at improving workplace diversity and inclusion. Her story inspired others, including Alexander, who began implementing policies to support underprivileged communities both inside and outside the company. One afternoon, as Maria stood in front of a packed conference room presenting a major campaign, she caught Alexander's eye from across the table. He gave her a subtle nod, a gesture of approval that meant more to her than any applause. In that moment, she realized how far she'd come, from a struggling single mom sending desperate texts to a stranger, to a confident leader commanding respect in one of the most prestigious companies in the country. Yet Maria knew her journey wasn't just hers alone. It belonged to Sophie, whose rainbow drawings now adorned the walls of galleries, and to Liam, whose dreams of becoming a doctor seemed less impossible every day. It belonged to Elena, who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself, and to Alexander, whose act of kindness had sparked a chain reaction neither of them could have predicted. And so, as Maria wrapped up her presentation to thunderous applause, she allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Life had thrown her countless challenges, but it had also given her something extraordinary: hope. Hope that no matter how dark things seemed, there was always a chance for redemption and renewal. Years had passed since Maria Thompson first walked into Hartwell Tech as a nervous, uncertain woman, trying to piece her life back together. Now, standing in the sleek conference room of the company's headquarters, she was unrecognizable from the person she used to be. Her name badge read Maria Thompson, Senior Project Manager, a title that once seemed unimaginable but now felt earned and deserved. As she wrapped up yet another successful presentation, the room erupted into applause. Colleagues congratulated her warmly, some shaking her hand while others offered heartfelt compliments. But for Maria, this moment wasn't just about professional success. It was a testament to how far she'd come, not just in her career but in every aspect of her life. She thought back to those sleepless nights when rent payments loomed over her like storm clouds, when Liam's asthma attacks left her pacing hospital hallways, and when Sophie's innocent questions about why they couldn't afford certain things broke her heart. Those struggles were still etched in her memory, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as reminders of her resilience and the power of kindness. Alexander Hartwell watched from the back of the room, his arms crossed as he observed Maria deliver her final remarks. He marveled at the transformation before him. The shy, hesitant woman who had once texted him by mistake was now a confident leader, commanding respect and admiration from everyone around her. Her journey had been nothing short of extraordinary, and Alexander couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride, not only in what she had achieved, but also in the role he had played in setting her on this path. After the meeting ended, Alexander approached Maria with a smile. "That was impressive," he said, extending his hand. "You've truly outdone yourself." Maria returned the handshake, her face lighting up with gratitude. "Thank you, Alexander. None of this would have been possible without your belief in me. I'll never forget that." He waved off the compliment modestly. "I didn't give you anything you didn't already have inside you. You did the hard work, I just opened the door." Their conversation shifted to lighter topics: Liam's recent science fair win, Sophie's upcoming art exhibition, and even plans for an upcoming company retreat. Over time, their relationship had evolved beyond employer and employee. They shared mutual respect and trust, often discussing ideas for improving workplace culture or supporting underserved communities. Though their roles remained professional, there was an undeniable bond between them, a connection forged through shared experiences and unwavering support. As Maria continued to excel at Hartwell Tech, she began using her position to uplift others facing similar challenges. Inspired by her own journey, She founded an internal mentorship program aimed at helping employees from disadvantaged backgrounds navigate the corporate world. The initiative quickly gained traction, earning praise not only within the company but also from external organizations focused on social equity. Maria became a voice for change, advocating for policies that prioritized inclusivity and opportunity. Her efforts didn't stop there. Outside of work, Maria established a foundation called New Beginnings, named after the grant that had changed her life. The organization provided financial assistance, educational resources, and emotional support to struggling single parents through fundraising events, partnerships with local businesses, and volunteer-driven programs. New Beginnings touched countless lives, offering hope to families teetering on the brink of despair. Liam and Sophie thrived under their mother's care and guidance. Liam, now a teenager with dreams of becoming a pediatrician, excelled in school and participated in science competitions. Sophie's artistic talents blossomed further, earning her recognition in regional art shows. Both children understood the sacrifices their mother had made and took pride in her accomplishments. "Mom's my hero," Sophie often declared, holding up one of her colorful paintings inspired by Maria's strength. For Alexander, witnessing Maria's impact reaffirmed his belief in the importance of empathy and humanity in leadership. In the years following their initial encounter, he adopted a more compassionate approach to running his company. He introduced initiatives to address income inequality, expanded access to healthcare benefits for lower-income employees, and donated significant portions of his wealth to causes aligned with Maria's mission. His reputation shifted from that of a ruthless businessman to a visionary leader committed to creating positive change. Though their paths intertwined in profound ways, Maria and Alexander maintained a respectful distance in their personal lives. Their bond was rooted in mutual admiration and shared values rather than dependency or obligation. Occasionally, they met for coffee or dinner to discuss ongoing projects or simply catch up. These interactions reminded both of them of how much they had grown, not just individually but together. One evening, during one such meeting, Alexander raised his glass of water in a silent toast. "To second chances," he said softly, his eyes twinkling with sincerity. Maria smiled, raising her own glass, "and to paying it forward." The ripple effect of their unlikely friendship extended far beyond either of them. Employees at Hartwell Tech spoke of Maria's determination and Alexander's generosity, drawing inspiration from their stories. Families helped by New Beginnings found renewed hope, knowing someone cared enough to lend a hand. Even strangers hearing about their journey online felt encouraged to persevere through their own hardships. In the end, what started as an accidental text message became a catalyst for transformation, not just for Maria and Alexander, but for everyone whose lives they touched. It was proof that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could spark the greatest changes. And it was a reminder that no matter where you came from or what challenges you faced, redemption and renewal were always within reach, if you dared to believe in yourself and accept help when it came your way. As Maria tucked Sophie into bed that night, listening to her daughter recount the day's adventures, she felt a profound sense of peace. Life wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was filled with love, purpose, and possibility. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream without limits, imagining all the good she could continue to do in the world. And somewhere across town, Alexander sat in his study, gazing out at the city lights. He thought about Maria and the countless others whose lives she had influenced. A small smile played on his lips as he realized something important. True success wasn't measured in dollars or accolades. It was measured in the lives you touched and the legacy you left behind. Together, though worlds apart, they proved that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to connect, uplift, and inspire, even in the most unexpected ways.